Hello and welcome to the Truth About Real Estate Investing show. My name is Erwin Cito, and I want to say happy belated International Women's Day. Oddly enough, International History of Women's Month is celebrated in October in Canada versus rest of the world celebrates it in March. So happy Women's History Month to everyone not from Canada. Anyways, I want to shout out all the lady investors, especially the moms, and even more so the single moms out there. I believe the women of real estate are incredibly awesome. I happen to be married to one, and I wrote a poem on the subject from my own experience of working with. I've shared before about half my clients are women, including the married couple. Uh, Half the time, the wife is the driving partner of that relationship. So, for the first time ever on the Truth About Real Estate Investing show, I'm going to read you a poem. In the realms of brick and mortar, where dreams are built and sold, a story of empowerment and courage does unfold. On International Women's Day, we raise our voice and cheer, the women leading boldly year after valiant year. Among my clients, women shine, their vision clear and bright, driving investments forward with insight and foresight. Husbands, too, in whispers confess, their admiration pure. Their growth of our net worth, they say, her genius did ensure. To the wives and pillars strong, upon which futures stand, who with a keen eye for value navigate the land. Their wisdom in selecting the right property to seize shapes the fabric of success with remarkable ease. And let us not forget the single mother's might, juggling life's many roles through day and night. Their resilience astounding, a beacon so profound. In them, a well of strength and love abundantly is found. So here's to you, the women in real estate who thrive. Your influence is boundless, helping dreams to come alive. On this International Women's Day, your praises we sing loud. For the dance of progress, you stand both strong and proud. Your freedom with these heroes in transactions large and small reveals the true essence of empowerment of all. To every woman navigating the path of wealth and home, may you always be celebrated and never feel alone. Again, shout out to all the women in real estate investing. On a personal note, my family and I, including my superstar wife, Cherry, we spent the week of March break up north skiing. Sort of. Cherry's got a banged up knee, so she worked in the chalet pretty much the whole time while I skied half the time. As the ski hill, it's Huntsville's Hidden Valley Highland ski. So it's a bit on the smaller side, but it's perfect for kids. I want to shout out to again Hidden Valley Highlands Ski Camp for entertaining my kids and for training them. I can't recommend it enough for any parent who wants their kids to learn how to ski. So we've been doing this about at least 3 years now, where our kids spend both the Christmas holiday break and March break in ski camp. We do live in Canada, hence I believe the life skills for a Canadian include swimming, skating, and skiing. Intermediate levels are just fine. I just want my level kids to be safe when they're playing with their friends. Our family friends, their teenagers actually had their ski school day cut short, as too many kids were getting concussions from crashing into fences or trees. So that's not for what I want for my kids, hence I'm planning ahead. Speaking of planning, I have enough clients with adult kids where their kids want nothing to do with the family business or the real estate portfolio. Versus what kid would say no to an inheritance of stock like Apple or Microsoft? My point is to increase the probability of my kids wanting to learn and be investors. They'll need something a bit more easy, a bit more passive than what real estate investors are going through locally to manage their own portfolios. Take Airbnb, for example. Earlier this week, Cherry and I had our worst experience with a property that we booked through Airbnb. When we showed up, this is for our March break. So when we showed up, the heat was off. When we arrived, the house was freezing and the thermostats weren't doing anything. Not a good first impression. Uh, there was no welcome email with instructions on how to operate the house, no manuals inside the house either. So we called and I spoke to the owner's father, and he was able to walk me through how to turn the propane furnace on that was outside the house. So that was the first for me. I've never seen a furnace outside the house before. But even with the heat on, the radiators on the main floor and in the main floor bedrooms, they weren't heating up. And that's where I was sleeping. So that's concerning to me. Uh, there was also a fluorescent light in the basement that was ceiling light that was loose and it was drooping down from its mount. I've never seen that before. Half the closet doors were off the railings. The wood fireplace hadn't been cleaned. The owner and the cleaner who came by to clean it up after we reported it, they didn't know how to operate it or how to open the flue, so we had no plan B either. Then at bedtime, as we were getting ready to go to bed, we actually looked at the beds and we found two bed pillows that the kind that you're supposed to, rest your head on when you're sleeping. They smell like bad body odor. Pretty gross. And some of the then we looked closer, pulled back some of the sheets, and then we pulled back some blankets, and we found some bed sheets that had old blood stains on them. My pillow was wet to the touch, so I just tossed it on the floor. I wasn't so lucky even when I went to go find a clean pillowcase, as the next one I found was yellow. This is hardly a good experience. The neglect of this short-term rental is as bad as I've seen, the worst in my experience. And how is anyone expected to relax with these sort of problems going on? The owner did come by to check on us in the afternoon, and her standards for operating a short-term rental with prices at $500 per night are well below my own. And who am I to criticize? Apparently, she's making money hand over fist. Anyways, we decided to cut our losses short. We didn't feel comfortable once Airbnb agreed to cancel the remainder of our reservation. Uh, but unfortunately, we only got 30% reduction on that terrible, terrible first day. That was the decision of the owner. I don't believe that was Airbnb's call to make. Anyways, we packed up the house, and mind you, when we showed up at the house, when we first checked in, when the heat was off, it was only 15 degrees inside, according to the thermostats, which seemed accurate. And when we arrived to pack up the house, it was 26 degrees. It was only 24 hours had passed. The owner had warned us there was no way to control the temperature inside the house. And I'd gone through and set the temperature at like 21, 22 degrees on all the thermostats I could find. Yet, yeah, the furnace was just on a runaway. Was running away. I don't know what would happen if we stayed any longer. So no surprise, the previous guests before us who left before we arrived, that's why they shut off the furnace. And the owner instructed me to regulate the temperature inside the house was by opening windows. In the middle of early March, it's a warm March, but it's still like cold outside. What a waste of propane and lack of client care. Anyways, so we packed up the house while the kids were in ski camp. A cleaner showed up and gave us grief for not leaving earlier. Like it was our fault. The house was gross, and that's why we were leaving. And it was also too hot. We drove 10 minutes down the road as we booked another Airbnb. And we were greeted with a beautiful custom home mansion. It was probably 4,000. Yeah, I think it was about 4,000 square feet on a massive lot backing onto a pond. It was even better than the pictures. We had a wonderful remainder of our March break after a very bumpy start. We honestly can't wait to go away again next year. And while my kids are old enough now, they don't need to be in camp anymore. So yeah, we hit the jackpot with that property. With an added bonus, we saved $1,700 for making the switch. Though I still think that first night stay at that crap hole should have been free. My point is, I couldn't do what the Airbnb owner did, have to deal with customer complaint calls and deal with Airbnb. And again, the owner is likely making really good money. And her experience was that, lack of maintenance was perfectly fine. She's still making money hand over fist. Uh, she actually said she couldn't take care of maintenance because the place was always booked. She never thought to, block off some time so you can get some work done. No. But to operate a business like that and not care about customer experience and argue with customers and be fine with being a slumlord of short-term rentals, I know my kids wouldn't do it. And I definitely wouldn't do it either. Hence, I choose to outsource all my management on my real estate investments going forward. Uh, all the heavy lifting that I have to do for investing in the States is just my due diligence. And honestly, I've had a blast doing it because I'm a real estate geek and I enjoy travel. So I can't wait to travel with Cherry to Atlanta and Nashville and in between. And yeah. Oh, and then also recently I stumbled upon Tricon's website and the rental listings as well. So so they're one of the larger REITs in the States. So again, I'm enjoying what's called in the industry, any industry, R&D. Most people understand R&D as being research and development. I also, it's also known as rip off and duplicate. So I have the rental listings of Tricon, which is and they own 36 or 38,000 single family homes in the States. So I have the rental listings, I have their addresses and pictures, so I can look up what they paid for and when. So, anyways, combine that with public knowledge of the billion-dollar investments being made by Intel, Samsung, Texas Instruments, LG, Honda, Toyota, Hyundai, TSMC, GM, Siemens, Tesla, all in business-friendly landlord friendly Southern USA. And it's actually nicknamed the Battery Belt for their green electric and battery manufacturing investments. All of the locations are just outside major centers like Columbus, Ohio, Atlanta, Georgia. And yeah, I know Columbus is a little bit on the northern side, but they're one of the anomalies of being landlord friendly in the north. Raleigh, North Carolina, Dallas, and Austin, Texas. These are all cities with growing population and growing economies and identified as among the best cities for investment in the USA. So my plan is very simple. I'm going to buy houses in between these major centers and the new manufacturing companies being built that will employ thousands of manufacturing employees. Anyways, I've mapped the new major employers out on Google Maps. I know my target neighborhoods, my investment criteria, and I've partnered with Share, the asset manager, to be my one-stop shop to, find me deals, manage the managers, all sorts of things. I'll pay them their fees and they get to do all the landlord duties while I get to keep 100% control and 100% of the equity. This is the best joint venture setup I've personally ever seen. If you too would like to learn how Cherry, my clients and I are investing in the USA, we are hosting a How to Invest in the USA workshop Saturday morning, April 13th. We have experts in all areas, including accounting, legal structures, financing, acquisitions, and of course, management. Note that we are keeping our investing simple and boring and only discussing single family homes at the workshop because they're affordable at the $100,000 to $350,000 range. And I can get cap rates between 5 and 7%, which pretty much beat anything here in Canada when adjusted for risk. Links in the show notes. On to this week's show. On today's show, we have one of my mentors and broker. Tom Karadza is the broker and co-founder of Rock Star Real Estate Brokerage, where I belong and have been since 2010. In my experience, they are the best leaders and influencers in the community. If results are what matters to you, like they do for me, Rockstar members, their 1,000+ members are very well educated, and more importantly, they are very successful, especially when you adjust for risk. No get-rich-quick schemes at Rockstar. And on today's show, Tom discusses how Rockstar members have weathered the current storm. Spoiler alert, it's been pretty good. We talk about how the pandemic ruined my Bitcoin gains, while Tom has accumulated more than he's willing to share, and he's laughing all the way to the bank. And as I say that, I know the irony. I don't know if that saying works when you're talking about Bitcoin and bank. You know what I mean. Anyways, Tom and his brother Nick Karadza are hosting the next Your Life, Your Terms event live and in person Saturday, April 6th at the International Center near Pearson Airport. This is likely the largest room. 1,000+ attendees are expected. And these will be successful action takers. The talks are always fresh. Like for example, there's speakers that they have out that they've never had before. There's no repeat in content allowed. Cherry will have a brand new presentation and she'll have a booth there as well. I'll be there, of course, networking. I'll be wearing my USA hockey jersey. If you're a client of mine, and I do know someone who knows someone, so I can save you the couple $100 on tickets. And for everyone else, I have link and details, and the link to register is in the show notes. URL if you have a pen handy, it's www.yourlifeyourtermsevent.com. Please enjoy the show. Hi Tom, what's keeping you busy these days?
I was just thinking about when I first met you and you decided you were going to get into real estate. And for whatever reason, I think it was a Greek restaurant in Burlington. We had lunch. Was that where it was?
Yeah, it was
and Nick was saying something to me like, we got to sit down with this guy, Erwin. He's thinking of leaving his job and going into real estate and real estate investing full time. Yeah. I'm like, okay, let's go. And Greek food I love. So that was an easy sell. Yeah. And I remember sitting down across from you, and I thought, okay, this guy's pretty crazy, like us. Yeah. So he kind of fits because he wants to quit his job. I remember it was a decent job. What was it?
I worked for a company that was acquired by IBM.
Okay.
Yeah. So I
were you like a data analyst or something?
I was in product management. So
okay.
It was a nice position for me because my work was highly respected. I worked between like clients and internal clients to help design product that would deliver what they wanted. So I was kind of like that intermediary between clients, internal clients, and our development staff.
And why? What had gotten into you? Why did you want to quit again? I forget.
I always wanted to get rich in life. It was always always in me. It's just my nature. I always wanted to be rich. And after reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, I realized that was not going to happen while working a job.
Got it. Yeah. And you wanted to be rich, and how do you define that? Rich in time, rich in money, rich in family?
I was young, right? More money the merrier.
Got it.
I was not even at a point where I didn't want kids because they're just getting in the way of making more money.
Got it.
So that was my mindset back then.
Got it. Right. Got it. I think I just watched. Is it true? I watched something. It was like a Chinese comedian saying for New Year's.
Yeah.
Okay, I was talking to Tim about this briefly. And is this a real thing? So you don't say Happy New Year to. On the Chinese New Year, it's not custom to say Happy New Year. You say, I hope you get rich.
It's a loaded thing, but it's also rich in what though? Money, health.
Okay,
right?
So it means I wish you wealth in all facets of wealth.
Yes.
Okay.
He's taking a liberty, but yes.
Okay.
But again, like generally Asians' priority is money.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Huh. And you get it. Like it was a historically very poor culture.
Sure.
So no money, no eat, right? Mm-hmm. So Croatians have similar background as well. You don't have money, you're not eating.
Yeah. I remember just the way my family, I think, would try to show wealth would be they had nothing. So if you went to visit, and this would be my family in Croatia, they would put any prosciutto they had, any cheese they had out, any bread in an abundant way to kind of show that they were welcoming you to the house and to show you that they had something to offer you. And they had no real financial wealth, but that was the way they kind of tried to show that they were welcoming you, putting some food on the table. Yeah. Weird times. Lots of different cultures have different ways to express that. But I remember you told us you were going to quit your job, and then you went and did. That took a lot of balls, man. Looking back at that moment, are you happy that you did that? Do you regret doing that?
So I don't know if you remember, because it was a long time ago. It was 2010 we're talking about. I actually went on sabbatical for 30 days.
Okay.
And I had my license at that point, so I give it a go. And then I was doing all right. I think I did 2 or 3 deals in that month. And then if I extrapolated, then that would be more money than I was getting paid at the job. And I was enjoying what I was doing. I knew that this would help me become a better investor as well. So then there was more wins. And also I could keep local, right? I was living in Burlington at the time, so I was on the GO train downtown.
Yeah.
And it was hard
jammed in there.
Yeah.
Everybody was reading the newspaper.
Yeah. Everyone's reading the newspaper. And especially the ride home was packed. Like I almost never got a seat. So you had to stand for
the body odor.
That's usually me, because I played basketball at work. I was that guy. But yeah, like that was a key part of the journey, and and it's weird because I've only ever been at Rock Star. I've been a realtor since 2010.
Oh wow!
I've only ever been at Rock Star.
Yeah.
So this is my only context.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And before we're recording, we're recording this on February 15th. Like there's been all this turmoil in the industry. Like just last week, there was big news in the CBC and the Globe and Mail. A certain group with 600 units in Northern Ontario, mostly, their bankruptcy protection, and digging into it, it's bad. I don't know how much you dug into it.
Not much. I just know that there was a bunch of stuff lent out on promissory notes, and that's really all I know. The houses were up north somewhere.
Well, the bigger issue, that's a big issue. Part of the issue as well is there's 200 units that are sitting vacant that are not habitable.
Wow.
Right. And I was thinking, like, how far is this from Rockstar theory for how to invest?
Oh, geez.
Right? Because I'll go OG on you. Because you always share your family story of back in the late 80s, mid 80s?
Late 80s and the early 90s.
Yeah.
Yep.
Can you share that story?
Yeah, I think maybe that's what defines how we think about real estate over the last 15 years was that era. Our father was running a drywall company. And then he started flipping properties on the side, just like everyone starts flipping properties on the side. In the late 80s, it was in Mississauga, just north of Square One, off Eglinton and kind of Highway 10. And those subdivisions up there were going up in the late 80s.
Yeah, that's a gorgeous area.
Beautiful area. He started flipping properties, and he did really well on a couple flips. New construction, bought them, sold them. And then 1990 hit, and he was holding this one new construction again that he bought off paper on assignment. So like it was a trailer on a gravel parking lot. The guy walks out buying the house. My dad buys the paper from him. And it was a 4,400 square feet house.
Oh my
square
God,
foot house.
that's enormous.
It's pretty big, 3-car garage. And back then he bought it for $750,000. And with the hopes that it would go up like all real estate was going up. And instead of it going up 4 months after he bought it, TD raised rates. I mean, the Bank of Canada raised rates, but in this 1 month, interest rates went up. And if memory serves, it was 2.9% in 30 days. So it was like a 3% raise in 30 days. And that absolutely decimated the real estate market. And not only the real estate market, it really ripped apart the high end, or what I would call the luxury market.
Yeah, 4,400 square feet would qualify.
Yeah, so that house, we were looking to see if we could sell it, and we would sell it for like $450, we thought. And at the time, we couldn't afford to sell it for $450. We would lose so much that our family home in Mississauga would be in jeopardy. So my dad decided to hold on to it. I became the property manager because my English was stronger than my father's, and we rented it out. And even renting it out, I remember roughly it was about $1,000 a month negative. So my dad's drywall, or our dad's drywall company, was struggling because it was a recessionary time, and we had this property that was sucking $1,000, and the price of it was under what we purchased it for. And then the tenants skipped out on rent, and I remember going to the house and it was vacant. First, I remember going to the house and them telling me, "Hey, just come back in a couple of days and we'll get you the rent." I used to go pick up the rent. I remember being inside the house when they told me this. Beautiful carpets, baby grand piano. Like, I remember being impressed with this house and just the way it was furnished and everything. So when they said to come back, I didn't really think of it. I used to cut the grass on that house and stuff. And
full service property management.
Yeah. Who knew what I was doing? Yeah, I was like my old Thunderbird. Like, I stuck in a lawnmower and I went to go cut the grass and do all kinds of who knows what was going on.
A lawnmower and a Thunderbird. Okay. I got the image in my head.
Yeah, two-door Thunderbird with light covers and a bra on the front with a lawnmower in the back going to cut grass. And I went back, and the neighbors are like, "Hey, they moved out in the middle of the night." And I'm like, "What?" They're like, "Yeah, the house is vacant. We've looked through the windows." And then I went, and the house was vacant. They skipped out on 1 month's rent. And at the time, 1 month's rent for our family was absolutely massive. Like, we needed that money.
Do you remember what the rent was?
I don't. I just remember the negative.
Okay.
And I remember the negative was like roughly $1,000. And I had to tell my father, that was just brutal. I had to re-rent the house out, and re-renting out a larger house when times are tough took forever. It was basically just U.S. executives who would rent out that house, and even re-renting it out again.
In a recession.
Yeah,
so
it took
still
forever.
Not easy.
It was not easy. No, I don't know how many months I was in university then. But I remember being vacant for quite a few months because I would have my friends over for some parties. And I remember one of my friends jumped off the garage roof. He jumped off the garage roof of that house and landed on his chest on the grass, and he didn't die. I remember seeing him bounce off the grass. So yeah, we had some kind of crazy parties in that house and stuff, but we eventually rented it out. And that just taught me that, going through that experience was really, really tough. And it just taught me that when we looked back, there were some real estate or some properties that really were the most liquid. If you needed to rent them out, if you needed to sell them in bad times, if you needed to refinance them. And it was starter homes. It wasn't these luxury properties. Starter homes always had a bit of a bid or a bit of demand. And it just always stuck with Nick and myself. We're like, oh, starter homes always seem to be like the most liquid real estate. So if you're going to get into real estate, probably should just get starter homes, and you should probably not do pre-construction like our father had done, because by the time you sign the paper, or the time between you sign the papers and taking possession, a lot can change.
Yeah, it could kill you.
The
market can change.
It can change greatly.
Get financing.
And I know that's very conservative thinking, and I know tons of people have made amazing money on pre-construction. And I'm not denying that. It's like absolutely fantastic for them. This is just our family story and what works for us. Yeah. So we always then steered, Nick and I, to starter homes that were resale, because we thought, oh, well, if they're resale, we know what the rent's going to be. And if it's a starter home, we know we can rent it out to a family, regular rent. We know we could do a rent-to-own strategy on it. Mm-hmm. If it's close to a college or university, we know we could change it into a student rental, which we had done. We have a property that we ran as a rent-to-own. That particular one didn't get bought out. We changed it to a student rental for a few years. Mm-hmm. Now it's back to a single-family rental. Mm-hmm. So the starter homes just have a lot of opportunity, a lot of
options.
There's options, flexibility to it. If you want to throw a credit line on a starter home, the banks are typically willing to do that. Mm-hmm. So it's just easy. So it sounds pretty boring, but we've just always thought resale and single family homes. And when I say single family, I should qualify that. Like, we mean fully detached, but if it's a semi-detached townhome, like those kinds of properties. Mm-hmm. Ideally single family if we can. And that just became like our thing. We would just buy resale. And that's what we learned in real estate. And then when we went off to start Rock Star, it was really just because we had no more money to buy properties ourselves. So we thought, okay, well, we have these real estate licenses that we got to bypass realtors. Mm-hmm. And why don't we just use this license to try to help other investors? Because this is going to sound crazy, Erwin, but in 2006 and 2007, there weren't a lot of realtors who worked with investors.
Yeah. I remember those days.
Yeah, you couldn't find anyone. So
most books taught to not work with investors.
Don't even. If it was a real estate book, it was like investors ask too many questions. Yeah. You don't want to deal with them. Yeah. And the brokerage that we first went to in Oakville, they told us we were going to fail. When we told them we were going to work with investors, they didn't think we were going to succeed at all.
Well, because also add to that, most investor books that were training investors, like write 100 offers.
Yeah.
Right.
And that was the books I read. I used to do that. Yeah. I used to write all those offers, and I used to piss off all these realtors.
Expect to win one.
Yeah. And I would say things like, legally, I know you must present my offer. I know you must present it. Legally, I know you must present this. Yeah. And then I flipped and I got my license, and then I dealt with these investors, and I'm like, oh God.
Gotta write 100 offers.
And then you don't realize the politics of real estate is that you're trying to keep relationships with other real estate agents, so you don't want to piss them all off with your crappy offer.
Yeah, exactly. And if you piss someone off, they may not ever talk to you again.
I'll never forget. I found a single family home in Burlington that I couldn't buy. Nick and I didn't have the money, but it was a single family home in Burlington I want to say like 283, 285, if you could believe it, 283,000. And I remember telling this investor, oh my gosh, I found the property. This is the price, and here's what you're going to get in rent on this property. This thing is a winner. And he had read some real estate investing book where he had taken the purchase price of the home and divided it by the property tax, and the ratio that he came out with. He said, he said in the book that if the ratio of purchase price to property tax was this, that it wasn't a good purchase. And I remember it just finally hit me. I'm like, wow, some investors just speak with crazy, some crazy ideas. And then I thought, oh my gosh, was that me? Like back in the day? Because I probably said some things to realtors that just sounded
like the 1% rule. Or,
well, the 1% rule, if you could get the 1% rule, that was crazy. That's what got us into student rentals because they were hitting the 1% and we're like, holy smokes.
Back in the day,
yeah. But anyway, so our personal journey is heavily influenced by the early 1990s, and that real estate crash property prices went down for 6 years. So that heavily influenced us and just guided us to starter homes, the resale market, super boring. And over the years, people have come to our faces and told us, you guys don't really know how to make money in real estate.
I know some of those people.
Yeah, you have to be doing this.
Who are now bankrupt.
Oh, really? Yeah. And it just never even fazed us because I always just thought like, well, this is my journey. That's your journey. Yeah. This is what's working for me. I'm doing the math on these things. I like what this, does, and we're going to stick with it. And our accountant really early, he's since passed away, but he was a mentor to us. And I'll never forget, he said that when he was younger, him and his accounting buddies would look at businesses. And as businesses would grow, some of them would grow almost exponentially. And they would always admire those people in those businesses. But, now later in his life, as he reflected back with his accounting buddies, they realized that it was the turtle who wins the race. that a lot of the businesses that really ramped up some revenues, that wasn't really a sustainable thing. Right. It was like either they, A, got lucky, or B, were not doing something appropriate, and their revenues really skyrocketed, but the business itself wasn't built on a bedrock of a solid foundation. And they came to learn that, like, the people who just do things at a steady pace, just year over year over year, at the end of the day tend to win most often. And that also stuck with us. And we're like, you know what, these little starter homes, they're the turtles. They just, day in, day out, they kind of work away for you. And at the end of the day, they're not the most exciting, but you're likely going to survive the journey.
I was just reading an article about looking back on GE, and that actually fits into that as well. When Jack Welch was like, he was like the Elon Musk at the time.
I remember, yeah.
Right. And then I remember when GE Capital started, and this is exactly what you're talking about. GE Capital started to finance their customers to buy more of their product.
Yeah, was that what it was?
Yeah. So it was like inflated. So like, we're number one or number two in this vertical, but we're feeding it.
Yeah. So it's like they had control of the monopoly board and the bank, so they just threw in more money into the board.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. That's.
Oh, sorry, I want to go back to the property your father bought. What is it worth today? Just to get some.
Yeah, I haven't looked at it in years. I guess if I had to guess, it's at Mississauga Road in Eglinton in Mississauga.
How's that not over $3 million somewhere?
Yeah, it's probably something like that. Yeah.
Maybe even 4.
Maybe. Yeah. Right. I should go look. Years ago, I kind of like blocked it out of my mind for so long because it was such a scar in our family. But
and the turtle would have won eventually if you could hang on.
Yeah, if you just held on. And that's the thing. Like, if you can handle the leverage, the whole key to getting ahead financially is in the existing financial system is to use leverage and then be able to smartly manage leverage. And if you can't handle the leverage, it's the market telling you, oh, you weren't too good at this game and we're kicking you out. But if you can manage the leverage, you're likely going to get ahead. I mean, I always look at real estate. I'm like, real estate as an investor, you put 20% down. Historically, in the Toronto area, real estate will appreciate at 7% a year. 7% on a 20% down payment is 35% return. And it's a good way to financially outpace the currency debasement in this country, and it's a good way to get ahead financially. But if you overextend yourself with that leverage and you can't manage it, you get kicked out of the game. It's like a reboot.
So it's a much tougher market today. I was actually talking to a Toronto agent friend of mine. He was he's doing the math in his head. He's an engineer by trade, but he's a realtor. He practices as a realtor. He was telling me to cash flow on a downtown Toronto condo, you need to put down 50 to 55%. Just to cover the hard costs. So mortgage, taxes, insurance, condo fee. I'm like, that's a lot of money to put down. And then the other things happen: tenant turnover, lease fees, bad debt, right? Repairs and maintenance, property management. All those things happen. Property tax in Toronto's increasing 10.6, 10.9% or something.
I think with the threat of 16% if the feds don't kick in some money.
Which could happen. It's an election year.
They
probably won't. They'll probably pay. It's an election. Election's coming. So they'll probably pay. So what should an investor do today, based on Rock Star investment philosophies?
I think I've just heard that story. Like, I'm 51 years old now. I've heard that story since about 1998. Like, in 1998, property prices had gone up for 2 or 3 years, and somebody told me, "Oh my gosh, like, you got to be careful with the real estate. Property prices have gone up now 2 or 3 years. They always go down because if you grew up in the 90s, you were used to property prices going down." Then I remember in the tech boom of the early 2000s, people were like, "Oh, tech stocks are where the money is. Real estate's way too hard." And I was buying student rentals then, and you couldn't convince anybody to buy student rentals. Everybody was like, Cisco, Nortel, Pets.com. Like, that was the era. That was the era.
Grocery.com.
Yeah, that was the era. Then that kind of crashes down. Greenspan lowers interest rates, real estate catches a bit of a bid, and then 2008 hits, and people in this country were convinced real estate was going to crash. We started Rock Star at that time, and people were telling us, "Oh my gosh, are you seeing what's going on in the US? It's going to collapse here in Canada." And then in 2017, similar things. Prices came down, and right now interest rates are high. So it makes it, quote unquote, more difficult than in the year 2001 when interest rates were lower. So I guess my message to anybody listening that's going to go into this is you have to understand that real estate And our money game now is very cyclical. Every 3 or 4 years, there's a big amount of debt in the world that's getting refinanced. And in between those times, things get a little wonky. So a lot of new debt came out in the pandemic. Our interest rates were really low to kind of create
I think a little bit's underselling.
Yeah,
a lot of
to create a lot of debt, and then inflation gets hot, interest rates go up, everything gets a little kind of scary. And then we're hitting a time whereas if I had to place a bet on where I think interest rates head in the next year, it's going to come down. And it's going to take some pressure off things to make that condo example that you were saying, to make it cash flow a little easier because interest rates are going to come down. Mm-hmm. And I have no crystal ball. I have no guarantee to that. I just mean over the last 20 years, this is what I've seen. It's like interest rates kind of trend up. Like in 2008, interest rates, no one remembers, but interest rates, we were getting some mortgages in the high fives. Close to 6%. And people were telling us, Tom, these purchase prices, I'll never forget. This Hamilton property at $225,000, no more cash flow. No more cash flow. Game's over. And interest rates come down, property prices go up, and the party kind of rages on. So I don't know if this is the end of real estate for the Toronto condo or for the resale market in Toronto. I just think we're in one of those cycles where rates are high. And if your formative years in real estate are 2008 onward, all you know is cheap money because the cycles have been so high with debt and so low with rates that's all you know. And we're finally coming to a place that's kind of outside of the recent norm, and it makes it difficult for people. If the numbers don't work and you can't handle it, then I wouldn't buy. But I don't expect that to be the case for the next 10 years. There's just too much debt in the world for rates to not come down. So I got to think things are going to get a little easier again.
On the same side, my friend was telling me about the condo. He was also telling me that in downtown Toronto, duplexes are on absolute fire.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Because people are and these
people
are
having families.
These are house hackers.
Yeah.
These are folks who are planning on living in one of the units and they need the income from the other unit to live. And like, oh God, thank goodness, my duplexes have taken a haircut in the last few years.
Yeah. I think it's just everything goes up and down. Like Nick and I don't look at real estate like any property we've ever looked at. We thought, would we buy this if we had to hold it for 10 years at a minimum?
Right.
Even if we were doing rent to own stuff, which we were ideally selling to a tenant buyer at the end of 3 years, which didn't always happen. But we had to plan that if it did, we were going to be okay with it. And if it didn't, we kept the property. So we're going to be okay with it. So the way we look at it is like, do the numbers work for us in our lives right now? Could we hold it for 10 years? Because when we were younger, I needed the cash flow. So the numbers that we're talking about, the Toronto condo and different properties around Toronto right now, if they don't cash flow, it's not really appealing. It wouldn't be appealing to the Tom that was in his 20s. But as your financial situation changes, someone might want to buy a Toronto condo right now. Doesn't matter if it's 40% down, 50% down, because they might want a condo for their family, for their son, for their daughter, for some reason. They're in a different financial place, and the number's not a big deal. So I think you have to match the conditions of the real estate market to your current situation. Are you young, willing to take on a lot of leverage and a lot of risk? Or are you a little older and you've accumulated some assets and now you're at a different place in life? Yeah. So there's just no one answer. Yeah. But I do know any investor who looks back always says it's harder today. Yeah. Like I've never met the investor.
It's still harder today.
It's still harder today.
I've never met. Even when the price is down, it's still harder today.
The banks change their rules. The down payment rules change. The qualification changes. But things always change. I'll give you an example. In London, Ontario, where we have a lot of investors who buy student rental properties around Western, they're about to change the bylaws as we speak right now to go from 5 bedrooms up to allowing 7.
Oh, great.
So now we were in a situation where people were like, oh, well, the numbers don't really work. It's 5 bedrooms. I can't earn enough, even though per room up there, it's common to get $1,000. We've seen $1,200 a month in student rentals. But now if you can add 2 more bedrooms, we know a bunch of investors who have unfinished basements that weren't finished because they couldn't legally add 2 bedrooms. Now they can legally add 2 bedrooms and it'll get another $2,000 a month on that property. What's that going to do to the opportunity there? Probably increase it. So I just think you can't take a moment in time and make a definitive answer that this is how it's going to be forever. Real estate's like a changing game.
So I want I want the listener to know what properties they should be looking at. Is a London student rental an ideal for anyone to get into?
Yeah. Okay. So
Also, another thing I wanted to clarify as well is like a high amount of leverage is different for different people.
Mm-hmm.
To me, a high amount of leverage was 20% down cash, maybe even HELOC,
Yeah.
in a Schedule A bank mortgage for cheap.
Yeah.
That was high leverage for me. Versus we see all these people out there with private first for 6%, private second for 12%.
Oh God, yeah.
Promissory note for like 15, 17%.
Yeah.
Right. And also I want to throw in, I've been saying this on the show a couple of times now. We used to call these hard money loans. Mm-hmm. We got away from it.
That's true. Yeah,
right?
We don't use that language as much.
Yeah, because I remember a friend of a mutual friend of ours, like he would use the term when he was building his mansions, and when he's I have hard money loans.
Yeah.
Versus people like Brian, I private borrow.
Yeah.
Like no, it's hard. These are hard money loans. But sorry, I digress. Back to what is a best practice investment in today's market?
So first, you just give me a flashback. I remember when Jim Flaherty, the finance minister in Canada, briefly allowed 0% down payment and 5% down. I don't know if you remember, for investors, for declared rental properties. The CMHC fee was like astronomical. But I can't crap on what you just said too hard, because when that came out, Nick and I were like all over that. We were like, wait a second, you can do 0% down. And if the numbers worked, and some numbers still did work at 0% down, your CMHC fee was astronomical. But anyway,
I couldn't qualify because I already had properties. So
it was tough.
They would never give that to me.
It was tough. Yeah. Yep. And
I tried though.
Yeah, of course. Why not? Yeah, 0% down. It's like an infinite return.
Even 5.
Yeah. But for today, I mean, it's a tough question to answer today, because you know, whatever answer I give has to be mapped to somebody's short-term objectives and their long-term goals. Like look at all of our short-term objectives, mine and yours. Like look at yours right now. You're making a change in your portfolio. Like it always is kind of shifting. Yeah. But if somebody's...
I'm a different age and different...
Yeah, you have different things
goals.
Bother you in a different way at this age and at this stage of life than it did a few years ago. So, and you want to adapt accordingly. And, you know, to each their own, of course. So, but I would say that to anyone looking at the Ontario market right now, what has been popular, if let me answer it that way, right now, has been student rentals. Because student rental demand is always strong. And I'm not talking about the recent massive influx of international students. The big universities always have demand. Yeah. So McMaster, Western, Queens, these places always have strong demand.
Guelph too, yeah.
Like Western has last time I checked was 39,000 students. If you add in faculty and the hospital there, we're talking at like 40,000, 50,000 people.
Yeah. And they have a college in town too to put more pressure on that market.
Yeah, Fenshaw's there as well, you're right. So if you can buy a property around Western, in good economic times or in bad economic times, there's always students. And those properties make a lot of sense, because you also get to go to market rent quite frequently. So if you rent out to a group of students, after 3 years, usually that group is moving on. You know, within 2 years, 3 years, or 4 years, usually you're moving on to get a new group of students. When that happens, you can take your rent back to whatever market rent is. And as a way of an example, my son is just leaving Western this year. He rented out what I would call a slummy house. We don't own this particular house, for $615 a month. Utilities included. 3 groups of students came out for next year just a couple weeks ago. They took it on the first day for $925 a room plus utilities. $925 a room plus utilities. He was renting just a few years ago. We signed that lease, or he signed it, at $615, utilities included.
Right. So like 50% increase over 3 years.
It's massive. Yeah. So student rentals are interesting. And now if they're changing some bylaws and you can add more bedrooms legally in there and you can do it properly, and I mean making like safe, clean, functional properties, so student rentals can be really interesting. And I would say to anyone looking at real estate, that could be a way that you want to look at it. Or you want to buy a property where you can add a duplex, a second unit, or a single family home on a lot that in the future you could drop in a garden suite, a laneway suite, or change the structure of that house. Because going forward, like look what you said about Toronto with like duplexes being on fire. Yeah. I think we all know there's going to be a continued housing shortage in this area. So that if you can add on to the property and add out of their income streams, those are huge. So, you know, if you can go to the Niagara area right now and find a property where you can duplex it legally and then potentially even add a third unit on the property, at some point. To me, those are gold, because if you look at the population growth in Canada, as much as Canada has problems, I don't think we can deny, like,
No.
Canada has problems.
You're pretty vocal
Canada has
about it.
government problems. Canada has, there's real estate problems, there's government problems, there's problems at all levels in Canada.
And all over the world too.
All over
like
the world too,
Evergrande,
yeah.
China, like U.S. with their
like the whole
border issue in Texas.
The whole world, we're going through a moment here for sure. But
It's crazy.
It's
Historic
crazy.
times.
It's crazy. It's we're
Bitcoin's over 50,000 again. These are historic times, man.
Yeah. To ride Bitcoin down to 16,000 or whatever it was and come back has been a journey. But on the real estate front, keep me focused here. Don't throw a dangle at the Bitcoin topic there. The Niagara region, like, if you just look at fundamentals, like, the population growth of Canada is going to continue, whether one way or another, through international students, legal, illegal, whatever it is. You know, we're getting more people in this country.
No way dips below 500,000 ever again.
Yes, we're going to have, so the population growth, a big percentage of population growth in Canada, of the legal immigration that I track, 44% comes to Ontario. So we get like a huge amount in Ontario. Within Ontario, a huge amount of that comes to the Golden Horseshoe. Niagara happens to be positioned against, the biggest economy in the world. The population growth is going to expand. They're going to put a new casino in Niagara. There's 2 new factories going up. Welland is getting a battery factory from, I believe it's a South Korean company. Don't hold me to that, but there's a new battery plant going to go in Welland. There's another new factory that I'm forgetting the name of that's plans in Thorold. There's a new golf course, I believe, being built in the Niagara region. So you could just see, like, that area is going to just continue to expand, continue to pull in population growth. So if you didn't want a student rental, I would say, hey, check out the outskirt areas of Toronto, specifically the Niagara area would be an interesting way to get into real estate for sure.
I'd throw in as well, like, a basement apartment strategy, garden suite strategy would be wonderful near a university as well.
Yeah, that would be great.
Those are really hard. Like, in my experience, those are really hard to find a lot that can handle that, or a property that can handle that. But man, you got basically an Ontario Golden Horseshoe unicorn if you can do that.
Oh my gosh. And I know some people who have built like 9-unit student rentals by these universities as triplexes. So they can convert it to like a proper triplex, or they can rent it out as three-bedroom student rentals. And with a lot big enough, if they wanted to, they could put something else in the back. So you're right. Yeah, that's a unicorn if you can find that kind of thing.
And the bank loves it. They'll finance it properly.
Yeah.
Versus my student rentals.
Yeah, well, back in the day,
I don't get the best financing.
Yeah, back in the day, student rentals were not like this. Back in the day, like, especially around McMaster, like, do you remember going into some student rentals? A friend of mine had a room when I was in university. We went to visit him. To get to his room, you went past the furnace, and there was like a curtain hung off, like, I guess from the HVAC ducts that you kind of pushed to the side. And now looking back, at the time, we didn't even think anything of it. But now looking back, I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy's room was on he was on the back side of the furnace room. Just with some carpet and a mattress on the floor. That was his room that he was renting out. So McMaster area was wild. It's better now. It's come a long way. I'm sure there's some of those properties still out there.
I remember seeing like basement bedrooms with no windows.
Yeah.
People had just a room. There was no window.
Wow.
Like that's wild.
Wow.
And that was not that uncommon. And the low ceiling, like 6'2".
Yeah, I remember the low ceilings. Yeah. I remember one bedroom in a basement that we were looking to buy this property. We went into the basement, and the bedroom, I think it had a window, but you're making me think maybe it didn't. But it had this little kind of doorway that was maybe only 4 feet tall. And the ceiling was slightly crooked, like it wasn't a proper doorway. Yeah. And it was maybe 4 feet long. So it was 4 feet tall and about 4 feet long. And you just kind of looked down, and there was no door. It was just this little weird hallway thing off the bedroom. And you walked through, and on the other side was a bathroom. And like, how did this, like, how is this bathroom here? How does this exist? So
and you wonder why we have rental licensing coming from the Hamilton area.
Yeah. By the way, we dug up one of Nick's houses by McMaster because we didn't have the money, or he didn't have the money. I wasn't involved in this house to pay for like a waterproofing company. So we dug it up by hand. He got like 6 of us out there, and we dug it up by hand. And then he sealed it all up. And we threw back all the dirt, and he sealed the cracks. But in one area where they punched a pipe through for something to do in the basement, maybe they're adding a kitchen somewhere or something, they forgot to seal around the pipe. No. So a couple weeks later, there was still a water leak, and they had to re-dig back down. Anyway, we've seen a lot of stuff.
Do you guys still have that house?
Yeah, Nick still has it. Yeah, yeah.
So speaking of Nick, famous quote from Nick is, what is it? Those who deal with the most shit, what is it?
Win.
Thank you. Thank you. Because we were talking about like stages of career, and like, we talked about the our neighbor to the south is world superpower, and I'd actually argue that they're the superpower by far. With we don't even know how bad the Evergrande issue is, and not just Evergrande, anyone who's behind Evergrande as well, who is the number 2, 3, 4 biggest builders. How many vacant homes are there in China? We don't know how bad this situation is. So I think things are, I don't know, all this. You read the Brick Talk stuff too. I don't know how much you believe like BRICS will actually catch up and actually be a significant thing. Like China has so many cracks in their economy; it's just nuts. But anyways, end of the day, not that much is going to change with the U.S. There's still going to be, even if someone passes them, there's still going to be an incredible world superpower, lots of jobs.
Sure.
And so like everything combined, I'm done with dealing with shit. Right? I've got a bylaw officer I call back because she's calling me because I have a duplex that's close to Mohawk College.
Okay.
So I fall within landlord licensing.
Okay, got it.
And like, I have 3 properties in Hamilton that will qualify under the current pilot for rental licensing. So and that's just not worth it to me. I'm tapping out.
Why is there a lot of work you have to do on that property?
No.
Okay.
This is why I'm partly pissed.
Okay.
These are legal duplexes. Like my Hamilton Mountain property.
So why is she calling you?
Because rental licensing. If you're in that ward, you have to go get rental license.
Okay, got it. Right? You don't have to reinvest in the property. You just have to apply.
I may have to do some.
Okay,
right?
Got it.
But again, though, my basements are done with permits. The city's already signed off on everything. Right? What do I need an HVAC inspection, an ESA? I haven't done anything. Right? And all these extra costs I don't want. Right? So I'm done. I read too much news, so I'm done dealing with shit.
And we know where you're going. You're wearing the hat of where you're going.
Yeah. Because oh man, I loved it. I'd never been to Texas before. You've traveled. You've had to travel a lot, especially when you're corporate work.
Yep. Dallas, San Antonio, Austin. Yeah.
I loved it. My trip to San Antonio and Austin, I just loved it. I had no idea.
Pulling up to a gas station, we were just talking about this, pulling up to a gas station and having brisket just ready at the gas station there with picnic tables outside and getting some fresh meat and eating it there. Amazing. I remember being the Whole Foods, wherever Whole Foods is originally out of Austin or San Antonio. I forget. I think it's Austin. I don't know. But I went to the Whole Foods.
I didn't see a lot of presents from Whole Foods.
Okay. We went to the Whole Foods like flagship store, and their hot table had this like fresh barbecue, and they were just selling it by the pound, so you could walk up there and just say how many pounds you wanted, and you would wrap it in paper and you could just go outside and eat it. And it was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. It was sunny and warm, and
which would be nice on a day like today.
It would be, it seemed like a great place. I could definitely see the attraction.
Yeah, because we were just talking about single family homes before we were recording. I just got an email, a property I'd liked on Realtor.com. So it gave me a price update. They just dropped the price by $25,000 from $300 down to $275.
Where on
North Austin?
North Austin.
North
got
Austin.
it.
Yeah, where did you find something for $275 in Ontario?
Where did you find?
Not even Timmins. Yeah. Actually, maybe Timmins, Ontario. $275, and I think I can rent it for. I may have to fix it up a little bit, but I think I can rent it for $1,900. Like these are the old. This is like Hamilton Mountain 10 years ago numbers.
It'd be interesting to look at the appreciation in those areas, just to see and what you personally expect. I think we get a strong appreciation in Canada because of the concentration of population around a few major centers, whereas the US, you just have a lot of choices. Yes. Even in Texas, you have a lot of choices, but then you can choose Florida and have a lot of choices. So
we'll get to Florida in a minute.
Yeah, but it's just, I'm curious to what happens to the appreciation in those areas, just because we don't get you don't get the concentration of population like you do here. Not that that's good or bad, and that might not be important to you, but it would be something to look at, like, historically, what happens in those areas around appreciation.
Because one of the things I like specifically why I targeted Austin was because the prices have already come down at least 20%. And Realtor.com picked Austin to come down the most of the country. So I'm looking at like Warren Buffett style, like Austin pretty much is on almost every top 10 list. Texas is obviously on every top 10 list, right? So this is capital. Tons of jobs. Prices are coming. I'll probably get something from like, I'll probably get that house. If I bought something today, I'd probably get like at least 30% off the peak.
I'm surprised to hear the prices have been coming down recently with just all the demand of people moving into Texas. Exactly. So what is driving is it just interest rate moves there that have made them unaffordable?
I think just went up too much. Went up too much too fast.
Okay, so it's a bit of a correction.
Yes, this is a correction. So I think
okay, so over 10 years it's up. Just recently it's down.
Oh yeah. No, just like about 2021-ish is when the decline started. Okay.
Yeah. So probably declined in 2008 during the financial crisis, surpassed the 2007 high.
Awesome and
yeah, and now it's okay.
Elon's there, Rogan's there. You been to Comedy Mothership?
No.
That's Rogan's coming.
Yeah.
You love it. Yeah. It's highly offensive. As long as you like offensive comedy. I love offensive comedy, especially Asian jokes. I just die. Yeah, just bring on, come pick on me. Anyways. But I'm again, I completely agree with your point, because America, like, there's just like Grayberg talks about, like in the States, like there's so many cities with a population of 2 million or more in the States, not like Canada.
Shocking, yeah.
Like there's so many options to move around to where to get a good job, which is why the property I'm talking about is 275. It's in Round Rock, which is it's the neighborhood North Austin, and it's kind of northeastern, and so about 15 minutes down the road is where the Samsung plant is being built to build microchips.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. So it's a $4 billion investment. They'll have 2,000 full-time manufacturing jobs.
Wow.
And Samsung, being a Korean company, they're back in Korea, still recruiting suppliers to come to Texas and support their build.
Awesome.
So that's how I'm trying to defend and try to be offensive and defensive at the same time.
Makes sense. Yeah.
So that's my thesis for the entire states as well. So for example, like Phoenix, I'm looking at as well, because that's where Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company is opening. Right, the world's largest microchip manufacturer. They make for Apple. You and I were both Apple people, right? So then that's how I'm defending mine. But I'm kind of preaching to the choir here about there's advantages to the USA investing, because I know well before I was looking at the US, you've been looking at the US.
Yeah, I think the way, to me, the biggest thing, everyone's going to be different. To me, the US presents a currency play, because the US dollar, to me, is going to hold its value. We're just seeing it around the world that fiat currencies are losing value one after another. They're losing them faster and faster.
The euro last 10 years has been terrible.
Yeah.
The yen, oh my God.
The yen, yeah, wow.
For anyone wanting to go on vacation, get a cheap vacation, go to Japan, because the yen's on sale. It's so cheap.
Yeah, I was just telling Nigel he's got to take me. We were
just there. I'll tell you where to go.
Yeah, cool. I would love to go. So to me, it's just a currency thing. Like, if you look at the Canadian dollar, if you have just Canadian dollar exposure and you don't have any US dollar exposure, and that's important to you, you may want to consider, especially if there's another generation in your family that's going to hold real estate, you may want to consider getting some US exposure to some properties just for the US dollar exposure, if it's just that. There's all kinds of other things you need to take into account. But to me, that's just the big picture way to look at it. That if you just have Canadian dollar exposure in your life, getting a property in the US would be one way to get US dollar exposure. And I think that's probably a really good financial decision over the next few years. I'm also a Bitcoin guy, as you know. So to me, Bitcoin is the apex predator in the room, and everyone should have exposure to Bitcoin. But that's a big leap for a lot of people. So for them, on their own financial education and financial journey, if they want to get exposure to something beyond the Canadian dollar, then at least consider getting a US exposure. And for Canadians, getting an investment property in the US is like a pretty straightforward way to get it.
And I know Rockstar's a big fan of the build to rent model in Florida.
I think we're more a fan of the people we know. Like, real estate to me,
team is incredibly important.
Yeah.
Like, again, we were talking, like, there's all these groups and they built poor teams and they're bankrupt now. It's just completely sad.
Yeah. And I think over the years, people have asked us for specifically Florida, just because so many Canadians vacation there. It's
so much warmer than everywhere else.
Yeah.
It's especially important in the winter. That nowhere else in America really is that warm.
Yeah, I was just down in Naples, and
nice.
It was really, it makes you question, what am I doing up here in Toronto in the winter? But anyway, you get the US dollar exposure, and I forgot what I was going to say there. Oh, the team. The reason that we like Florida is we just know this. We've known Jim now for 15 years. We didn't know the full scale of what he's doing down there, and they're building brand new homes every year in the scale of 500, 600, 700, 800, and they're building per year, and they're building them with tenants in mind. So they're building them so that they know they're going to rent them out, so that the property management can be the easiest thing on them. So they're building them with certain kitchen cabinets and certain counters and certain floors, and they're building them with roofs that have the proper tie-ins for hurricanes. They're building them at the right elevations. So for a Canadian with a lot of variables to deal with when you go into Florida, this is one
group.
There
are a lot of variables, more than people expect.
Yeah, for sure. This is a team of people that we feel we can hand off people to that are building the home, they're property managing the home, they are handling the maintenance on the home. So you're kind of covered, right? There's still risk, of course. But that's what finally got us into Florida. It's like, we finally found a team that we can say, hey, Erwin, you want to go down there? All right, here's the guy we trust. Go see him. His whole team is going to take care of it. They're managing like 2,200 units. They got it all figured out now. We went down and did a tour to check it out firsthand ourselves multiple times. Nick and I have been down, and it's been great.
And when I first saw the number of homes they build a year, I thought it was a typo. I thought there was an extra zero.
Yeah, because they're a home builder.
Yeah.
They're like a home builder that used to build subdivision homes. They've just dispersed to do rental properties in different communities around Florida.
Because to give context, they would be a top 10 builder in Ontario based on their volume, maybe top 3.
Yeah, I don't really know. I guess maybe they would, yeah.
Well, just think like Mattamy can't build 800 houses a year, could they?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Don't put anything past Mattamy. I don't know. I drove through a Mattamy subdivision in Florida.
Oh, cool. And they're a Canadian company.
Yeah.
I didn't know they had no idea they expanded. Right.
Unless I missaw it, but I'm pretty sure it was the same logo with the same company name on there.
And these are houses. I removed the condo thing because it's way easier to build a vertical.
Sure.
These are house builders. Like that's an incredible volume.
Yeah, building the vast majority are infill lots. So they're getting infill lots in existing communities and building brand new homes in there. Yeah.
Because my context is Steve Ford, who we know, a Rock Star member.
Yeah.
Like he builds 100 houses in a season.
Yeah.
The builder he works for, right? And that's a whole season.
Yeah.
Like so for someone to do hundreds.
Right?
Yeah.
It's kind of was the appeal to us is that these guys are like the real deal. They're not just building one home a year and selling it to an investor.
Yeah.
They are really doing this that's their livelihood. They're in this business, right?
Yeah, incredibly end to end.
Yeah.
Right. Here's the product, we'll manage it.
Yeah.
It's brand new.
Yeah. Yeah, and then Canadians get some US dollar exposure. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I don't know.
No rent
I'm
control,
questioning.
no LTV.
Right now, there's no rent control. I mean, real estate, you always have to, like, the successful real estate investor just has to roll with the punches, like as you see it with bylaw officers calling you and stuff. You don't know what's coming. No rent controls. The property manager we were speaking down there, she was shocked when we talked about our landlord board up here.
Yeah.
She basically at one point said, "Oh, you're California."
Yeah.
And we're like, "Oh, is that what you would think of us?" And she said they're 45 days. And their cash for keys there was like $200. Which shocked us, but the reason it's so low is because the tenants know they're going to be out.
They know leg to stand on.
So you don't have to pay much to get a tenant out who's not giving you trouble or not paying. You can just go up to them and say, "Hey, I'll give you $200," and they leave. Mm-hmm. So just a very different market,
different culture.
Yeah,
The relationship between tenants and
I'm pretty sure, I don't know if I remember this accurately. I'm pretty sure like the tenant board there, like you're going to the proper courthouse.
Yeah, there is no tenant board.
You're going to like court.
Same law, same law system as everyone else.
Yeah. And then, there's still stuff to learn, different areas, different counties. And, there's always new things as an investor to learn about and the different rules down there. But the 45 days, was really interesting to us. And when she told us that for a tenant to renew, she had to give them a letter allowing them to renew the lease. And that to me was shocking. Because, here, if someone goes beyond, it goes to month to month. Yeah. And there it was directly the opposite. So, I thought that was shocking.
Yeah, because here as a commercial landlord, the tenant's usually like pushing you to re-sign a new lease.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Versus tenants, residential, I'm month to month automatically.
Yeah.
I suggest all Canadian investors speak to an American investor, see the comparative differences.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Because Florida, Texas, Arizona,
Georgia, there's always going to be
the Carolinas.
It's different.
There is no separate division of government or laws that are specific to protect tenants.
And as I learned more, even within the state, different counties can have different rules for rental property.
Yes.
So you just need an experienced team.
Yes, you do. And even here within like Georgia, for example, certain counties they're more backed up than others for tenant landlord issues. So it's still very area specific.
For sure.
Yeah. So Can we all talk about Bitcoin?
Sure.
Apex predator in the room. Because I remember when I first met you, you were the first person to introduce gold to me as a store of value, not as an investment. I think people need to always understand that. Is that still how you position gold, store of value?
It's losing it to me, but yeah, that's what it was.
It's losing it, eh?
Well, if you just look at the ETFs that just came out, the gold ETFs are getting, they're losing investment. If you look at just the amount invested in gold ETFs as the Bitcoin ETF that we're just 5 or 6 weeks in, they're coming down in the amount of investments they're holding, right. And the Bitcoin one's like exploding.
Right.
So
is that just partly a shift? People are like,
yeah, I think so.
To raise money for the Bitcoin, they want to divest some gold.
I think so. Like a lot of investors, to me, if they were investing in gold, they were probably in the store of value camp. Because why else would you have gold unless you thought maybe it stores your value? Yeah. And then to me, what's a better store of value? Bitcoin comes out and now I can buy it as an ETF within my 401k if I'm in the US, which I couldn't until this year, just a few weeks ago. Mm-hmm. I'll reallocate. Like I've seen you look at the compound annual growth rate of Bitcoin, and as of January 28th, 2024, this year, if you go back 4 years, it's 46% compound annual growth rate. Mm-hmm. Like that's you can't deny that that's an incredible mm-hmm. growth rate. So like if you are a sophisticated investor just looking at numbers, yeah. And you had your gold and you had it as a store of value and you consider Bitcoin a new store of value, you'd probably want to reallocate some of your gold into Bitcoin. And I was a big gold guy because of the store of value thing for mm-hmm. sure. Mm-hmm. But the store of value, like the history of money is that, to me, technology is constantly changing what money is. And we're at this weird point in history where technology is in the middle of changing what a good money is again. And most people won't see it until 20 or 30 years pass, and they'll look back on this moment going, oh my gosh, like I guess Bitcoin really did do something mm-hmm. interesting. Yeah.
So we're the business case is there for it.
Now it does seem like we're, since it came out in 2009, we're now 2024. I remember I thought it was a tulip and it was going to die. I remember when it went from, I thought I would dismiss it. I'm like, what is this garbage? Like I'll come out with the Rock Star coin. How about that? I just didn't understand the characteristics of Bitcoin at all. I didn't understand that there was an asset, a digital asset, and that it was a network. So I didn't understand that Bitcoin was really two things in one. Mm-hmm. And I just dismissed it. And then in 2020 is when I went down the rabbit hole and I freaked out and I realized I was wrong. And started paying very close attention to it. And now I can't stop thinking about it because I do believe it's the apex monetary predator. And I do believe that it's going to be a network that sucks in a lot of value. And when network effects begin, they are very difficult to stop. So by way of example, I would share with you voice over IP. Voice over IP came across with TCP/IP or the internet, and it almost destroyed the phone companies. The phone companies as they exist today, the mobile phone companies, only exist because they sell data. They're not selling anymore. Like Bell's not selling landlines anymore. So this new network came in and destroyed an existing model, and those businesses all had to change.
Yeah, like dominant businesses with all.
Yeah, you're talking about Bell Canada, Rogers. These companies all had freak out moments that had to change. And I just see it now happening on the monetary side, that there's a network, an open source protocol. It's permissionless. The ledger on it is immutable. It's changing things again, where now the banking system is going to have its freak out moment mm-hmm. as more and more monetary value gets sucked into this network. Mm-hmm. And to me, it seems inevitable. I know for many people that would sound like it's crazy, but to me, it seems inevitable. And that's why it's kind of captured my interest. And then if you look at compound annual growth rates now with some history, it's just remarkable. Like it's kind of, it makes you question, like, what are you investing in? Like, why aren't you paying more attention to this thing? My own journey is like your life, your terms. We talked about Rock Star and stuff, but really, like, I just want to live my life on my own terms and leave me alone. Mm-hmm. And that's what got me into real estate. Now there's this other thing that's just kind of got my attention, and you can't stop thinking about it. Once you kind of go down the rabbit hole, or when it's dangerous.
It is dangerous.
Sucks you in.
It's a time suck. Yeah.
I don't know.
You're pretty good at defending your time, but that one's probably a tough one.
That one's tough, especially now because I must be thousands of hours in now. So yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough one.
Yeah, it's actually one of the. It's actually, it sounds stupid. I say it this way. It's one of my biggest disappointments of COVID, because the lockdowns meant that we couldn't all be in the gym together.
Yeah.
And then when I got back in the gym, you guys were already like a couple $1,000s ahead of me on Bitcoin. And I'm like, I had all this opportunity cost. I could have made so much more money if not for COVID.
I remember when I had my moment, I was sitting in the office because our office was open, but it was on lockdowns, but we were legally allowed to be open. And it was me and Nick and one other person, the three of us. Yeah. And I had the moment where it all just made sense for me. And I ran to Nick's office and I'm like, I was so wrong on Bitcoin. We have to get into this. And you're right. It was just at that moment where none of us were hanging out together.
And so I didn't see you till so when you had that moment, it's probably I was 4 months behind.
Yeah.
And Bitcoin had gone around.
Yeah, that was a pretty important 4 months. Yeah.
Damn it! so damn you, COVID.
It's okay. It's got a lot more to go, Erwin. You're good. You're good.
Where's the good starting point for anyone to learn about Bitcoin? Because you were the one that got me to read the Bitcoin Standard by Safety.
Yeah, I guess it just depends what your background is. If you are into economics and money and you have a little bit of history reading about that stuff, the Bitcoin Standard by Saifuddin Ammous is probably the best start. The first 4 chapters or 72 pages of that book lay down in a beautiful case for it. If you want a shorter thing, there is a Medium article by Vijay Boyapati, and it's called The Bullish Case for Bitcoin. So if you just Google The Bullish Case for Bitcoin, Vijay, you will find that Medium article. He actually turned it into a book now as well, but it's originally a Medium article. That is an easy read that lays out a wonderful description of what Bitcoin is, both the digital asset and the network component of it, and how to think about it. So I think that would be a really, really good entry point into it. And then of course, Jeff Booth's book really kind of connected the dots for me, because he doesn't talk about Bitcoin, but in his book, The Price of Tomorrow, he starts outlining technology, productivity gains, and how that works in a fiat-based, debt-based money system. And once you read that book, it really connects a lot of things together. And that to me is, if you're not into the money side of Bitcoin, but you just want to understand what's going on in the world with technology. With technology. That would be a good read. Yeah. So if you're a tech guy, me too. So,
but again, it's more of a macro book in general.
Yeah, totally. Right? Yeah. I think he uses the word.
Geeks. This is why we get along.
For sure. Yeah.
Macro geek.
Yeah.
You want to understand macro? Read this book.
I think that's why I like Bitcoin so much. Is there's just so many layers to it. It's just it's a remarkable thing. I really feel fortunate to be able to be here at this moment in time, for sure.
And Bitcoin Standard, I thought, was a wonderful history lesson, if nothing else. Even if you don't like the Bitcoin or whatever.
Correct.
But just the history of money.
Yeah, it gives you a context or a framework of how to think about things.
Yeah. Seashells.
Yeah.
Copper
stones,
coins.
Rye stones.
Silver. How silver got killed by gold.
Yeah. Stock to flow ratios. How do they work? Yeah.
Yeah. And the ultimate, there can only be one.
Yeah. There's a line in that book. It's the top sentence on page 34.
Is this your Bible? You have all highlighted and all dog-eared up.
Probably. Yeah. I've read it a few times. The top. I think there's a new edition, so it might not be page 34 anymore.
Okay.
But page 34, the top sentence on that page, basically the sentence, the idea behind the sentence is, you can ignore Bitcoin, but it's at your own peril, because the hardest form of money always wins. Yeah. So it's you can.
Which is why I said there can only be one.
Yeah. So you can choose to ignore Bitcoin and laugh it off, but just know that your purchasing power in Bitcoin terms is dying over time. So you can ignore it, but you're doing yourself an injustice at this point to ignore it.
And we're not saying load up.
No.
You should have some exposure.
Yes.
Everyone should have a little exposure.
Yes.
You're laughing. You're smiling at me.
Yeah. So whatever's right for you.
I know why you're
have
smiling.
2%, 5%, something. I don't know. It's just everyone's different. Like we said, it's like real estate.
Everyone's different.
Everyone's different. What's right for me is not right for you. It's not right for whoever's listening. It's just everyone's on their own path. So I'm a Bitcoiner now.
Can we talk about marketing?
Sure.
Because again, I told you I study both how to make money and how people lose money. So I dig into how these recent bankruptcies. I research what happened, what did they do, how did they raise all this money, sorts of things. So for example, the folks who were in Northern Ontario who recently going through bankruptcy protection. Like for example, it's quite obvious, just a little bit of clicking, that for example, they bought hundreds of thousands of Instagram followers.
Oh, geez.
Right.
Okay.
So it's stuff like that, and like to me, like I've been around long enough to know when someone's bought, just when they have absurd numbers of whatever followers. I guess, or even if someone, even old school, if someone had like an enormous email database, but they didn't build it themselves.
Yeah.
And I know they bought it, right? This is no different. But, ever since I've known you, and then you introduced the world of Dan Kennedy to me, which I greatly appreciate. Someone just recently complimented my marketing systems, which
awesome.
Which I largely borrowed from yourself.
Yeah.
And this fits into your whole abundance mindset. I don't know if I said it on the recording yet. Did I say it on the recording yet? Like, dream so big that everyone else's dream can fit within yours. Right? Because, you and Nick are incredibly transparent, and everything you do is basically available to.
We try to be.
Yeah. And so where was I going? Oh, yes. So I'll just say, like, you guys seem to have done everything the right way. You only have 20,000 Instagram followers.
Yeah.
I know how hard you guys worked for it. You didn't buy that.
No, and that's largely my son who's taking our content and doing stuff with it. But no, we didn't buy it. No.
And I don't want too much attention on Instagram, because just from my own experience, my email database is what converts.
Sure, for sure. Yeah.
Can we talk about that? Is that still where things are? Is that still building the email database? Is that still a priority, or should you focus on your TikTok?
Okay. So when it comes to marketing, the way I think about it is, remember, my life's kind of motto is your life, your terms. I want to live my life in the way I want to live it. And marketing, so why we talk about real estate and that I'm a believer in real estate is because the leverage of real estate gets me financial gains that are enough, that are going to allow me to live life or help me at least live life on my terms. The reason we talked about Bitcoin is for similar reasons. The reason I like marketing so much is because if you understand marketing, you can build a life on your terms, because I found in business, very few people know how to get a new customer. They have an idea. They can rent a place. They can create letterhead. They can create a website. So if you understand the principles of marketing, you are likely going to do really well in whatever business you're going to open, whether it's a car wash, a restaurant, or real estate investor. And the principles of a marketing are, to your email question, to build a database of people that have in some way, shape, or form raised their hand and identified themselves as someone that's kind of sort of interested in you and what you have to offer. And the best way for me to get people to raise their hand and identify themselves is by getting them to share their email address with you. So to answer your question, email is still amazing because you own the email address. On Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, those companies control the users that are subscribed or are following you. Whereas in email, you own that email address. So you get to email it. You have to maybe fight with a CRM system to get your email out, and there's spam complaints and different things if you're doing it incorrectly, but ultimately you own the email. That's a very powerful thing. To me in business, the relationship that you have with your database is the most valuable thing you can have. Because there's going to be some people who love Irwin and what Irwin talks about so much that it doesn't matter if Irwin goes and starts a business that's, you can go start a restaurant tomorrow. But you've established a relationship with the people, they trust you, and if you're going to start a restaurant, they're going to come and eat at your restaurant because of who you are and what you represent to them. So a business owner's relationship with their database is the number one asset that they can have. It's not the office space they're in, it's not the name of their company, it's that. And so few people understand that. And an email address is the best way to build it. Then you can layer in physical mailing addresses, phone numbers. If you want to start texting people, you can start doing all these weird and wonderful things. But email is an absolutely critical way. It is the best thing to be building because if you get shut down of Instagram, you're still going to have your email addresses.
Or when Musical.ly, when that went down. I remember that was a huge...
Yeah. I'm such not a music guy, but sure. Okay, I believe you. But then
what was TikTok before Musical.ly? Was TikTok Musical.ly before? I think that's what happened.
Yeah.
I think what's that. But then all these influencers, they lost
You lose
their million subscribers or whatever.
Yeah. And then it's on you. Once you have a database, the onus is on you to prove that you are sharing valuable information.
Yeah.
Like if everyone just spit out to your email list garbage, people are eventually just going to unsubscribe and you're gone. So like now I like that relationship where it's like, oh, the onus is on me, the business owner, to share such good value that people are going to keep interest in me. And then every once in a while, you're going to ask to do business. Yeah. And because you consistently offer good value, people are eventually going to come to trust you. And with trust, they're going to come to like you. And when you make an offer to do business with you, some people are going to raise their hands and say, I'll take the next step and I'll proceed to do business with you. And it's just, to me, the most wonderful way to do business is that build a database of people who are interested in your topic or area of expertise, offer a lot of value, follow up consistently. With that comes trust, and the person who's reading your information or following you, they're going to like you. Then the ultimate sale is easier. So it's just like a beautiful thing. And to me, marketing, once you understand the principles of marketing, you can go to Texas tomorrow. Use the exact same principles that you're doing, Irwin, here in Ontario to build what you want to do in Texas. And it's going to work. Just like real estate has principles to it, marketing is going to have principles to it. So it's total freedom. Like it's the biggest thing, and nobody believes me and understands it. And it seems like in the real estate world, everyone just runs around on Instagram trying to get followers, and everyone just
quick
runs.
Sale.
It just seems like everybody. You know what? I guess the way to look at it is there are principles to anything. There are strategies and tactics. And in the marketing world, everybody plays with the tactics. Everybody does like the quick new thing on Instagram, that's a tactic. The quick new thing on TikTok, that's a tactic. The quick new thing on Twitter, it's a tactic. Very few people have a strategy around their marketing, and very few people understand the principles of what they're doing. And I think what Nick and I have done over the years is we try to understand the principles of what works in marketing, then implement a strategy for it, and only then choose the tactics we're going to use in that strategic implementation.
I think that where people most fail is, like in anything, we call it the content treadmill. The regular communication with your email database, minimum a week. I think we're 2. I think you guys are like 3 times a week, and that is the content treadmill. You have to keep in touch with your database, and then some of these people you call as well. So like, oh, that's work. Like, yes, it is work, but this is how you get results.
It's called sales. If you have a business, like if I had a Subway sandwich shop that was next to a subway station that was really busy, I probably didn't have to do the content treadmill, because people are going to be walking by every day, and some of them are going to be hungry, and I'm going to sell them a sub.
But Subway corporate has done your marketing for you.
There's that too. But even if I wasn't to go to corporate level, if I was just a no-name sandwich shop in front of a busy place, I'm going to get some business. But when you're a service-based company and you don't have potential customers walking by your physical location, well, then you better be doing something to get attention. And that's why you have to produce content. So you do a really good job at this. You're putting out emails and podcasts. I know you are, in videos, and you're hosting class, and you're doing all these wonderful things. And that's how you get people to see what you're doing. So it is a content treadmill in business, especially service-based businesses. But there's no really other way to get people to kind of walk by your store unless you're putting out content. If you're putting out content, you have people kind of walking by your store just virtually. So it's tough. But I mean, the opportunity for anyone listening who does the content is incredible, because no one's really doing it. Everyone's just kind of like half-assing it.
People can't stay with this.
No.
Like how many podcasters we know, just even in our friends group, who haven't made it past a year. Let alone 6 months.
Are there a bunch? I don't even track. But I guess that makes sense. People start and then kind of give up on it.
And that's where there's a time and place for giving up, but those who can, or just keep shifting. Like, for example, no different than my investment journey. Like, it started with single families, did some non-conforming multis, and then the city was cracking down. So then we went to student rental, because we could get it done pretty easily, and we can conform with all bylaws and whatnot. And then duplexes, because student rentals, the financing was difficult. So then legal duplexes, completely clean for financing. And then do that, and then it doesn't cash flow enough. We got a garden suite now, right? So, but again, sticking with it. You got to roll with the punches.
Yes.
Yeah, and then but I've been punched too hard, so I'm going south.
Yeah, well, you're just changing your approach, and I'm sure there's going to be punches for you in Texas. Let's face it, it's like real estate. Like there's always punches.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
No, worse guns.
Yeah. I never really thought about that. Yeah, we were talking about it earlier. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not too scared of the guns. You brought up the guns in Texas. I don't know.
I've researched it too much. You dig into Bitcoin, I dig into my personal safety.
Okay. I do have to admit, the last time I was in Florida, I honked the horn at somebody, and I remembered I was in Florida. I'm like, holy shit, duck! I don't know what's gonna happen. But
Do they have a gun in their? Because when I was in Texas, like I did not see anyone carrying a gun. I was in law enforcement. Yeah. So I was thinking about like if it was me, it'd be such a hindrance to wake up every morning and holster up or whatever, and then like there's all these private businesses that don't allow open carry, right? So you're not supposed to carry the gun, and so yeah, I guess everyone's gun is in their glove box.
I guess I remember going into a restaurant a long time ago at a marketing conference in Scottsdale, Arizona, and the restaurant said, I don't know if that's a conceal and carry state or whatever you call it, but the restaurant, the entrance said, this is a no gun zone. Please leave your guns like in the car or at home or not in the restaurant. And I'm like, this is wild. I've never seen this kind of sign as you enter a restaurant before. Yeah. So I guess in that state, maybe you can have concealed weapons on you. Yeah. Recently I was somewhere, was it last year I was in Arizona, maybe it was in Arizona, I saw somebody holstering a gun walking around, but different.
We need to talk about the conference, your member event. It's not even really a member event because you do allow outsiders.
Yeah, we kind of usually have like about 50 to 100 tickets for people who aren't clients of ours.
Oh, so not many.
No, no. So it's,
It sounds like a lot to some people, but there's sometimes over 1,000 people.
Yeah. Last time was our biggest one. We hit 1,100 people. This started with our accountant. You know how this started with our accountant who would come out and just talk about like a tax tips for real estate investors. And someone was like, "Can you do that again?" And it just rolled. So it started with 50 or 60 people at the Holiday Inn, in the basement of the Holiday Inn at Bronte and QEW in Oakville. But anyway, Saturday, April 6th will be the next one. We haven't released the speakers yet, but there's going to be 1,000 people there, and the sponsors are always great people. And
because you don't let anyone sponsor, I know.
Yeah. We kind of are a bit choosy on that, and it's fun. So the next one's Saturday, April 6th, and if you're following us in any capacity, you'll hear about it because we make a big show about it. Mm-hmm. And we're excited for it. It's nice to get everyone together. It's like, you know how it is with real estate investors. We don't all get together. Mm-hmm. It's not like going to the gym every day where you cross paths with people or your favorite restaurant. You see it's a bit of a reunion where we can all sometimes just commiserate like about interest rates and like the tenant board. And sometimes it's like a support network when things are going great, you're cheering. And when things aren't going the best, you're kind of just supporting each other. Mm-hmm. So to me, it's an important event and we have fun with it. Last time we had Jeff Booth out there. That was a really good talk. And this time I think we have some great people. And I'm just not going to share just because we haven't put it out yet. But Saturday, April 6th, you'll hear about it. Yeah,
if anyone enjoyed this podcast, for example, like what we just talked about today, you'll do basically in a longer format that day. We'll talk about macro. I'm sure we're going to talk about Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I'm sure we're going to talk about development or like...
Yeah, we're going to dive into the Ontario market pretty deep this time. Yeah.
And also very micro level, you're talking about specific markets.
Correct.
Like what specific rental properties are doing.
Correct.
Right? You get, go from like the global all the way down to the property. Right? Yeah. Numbers, profile, neighborhood.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I think we like to have fun with it. I think this time the theme's going to be Indiana Jones. Last time it was Matrix.
Is it? I haven't seen anything yet. I can't wait.
Not yet. We haven't released anything. But Anthony on the team has an old motorcycle that kind of reminds us of an Indiana Jones kind of motorcycle. Yeah. So we're going to try and tell the hall that it's not operating, even though it totally is, and it's just a prop. And we're going to try and bring the motorcycle to the event.
I want to see you or Nick crack the whip on stage. I want to hear it from the back of the room. Like,
oh my God, yeah. We'll have some fun with it. We are ordering some whips and some Indiana Jones hats for the.
Yeah, those are toy ones. I want to see a real. I don't know. Is it a bull whip? I want to hear it. I want to see someone crack it on stage. Even better if you have a target to hit it with.
Yeah.
Man.
And everyone, I just want to thank you. Thank you for supporting us and being part of this, journey. You've. You came on and done your own thing in an incredible way. So it's been awesome for us to watch what you've done as well. So congratulations on everything you've done.
Thank you.
And it'll be when you're the mayor of Austin or San Antonio or whatever, you're going to have to let us know.
I don't want to get shot at. But you guys took a flyer on me because I don't think I've mentioned that in a long time. Because at the time, I was the only person to join the team who was not a member.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Really? Was that the case?
And I think I'm the only one that's worked out.
Yeah. Maybe.
Anyone else? Is it? Because actually, it's a rule. It's a rule now.
Yeah.
You may not join the team unless you're a member.
Yeah. We have some people on the team that have been friends of mine that have joined Rock Star now over the years. That's different.
You didn't know me.
Yeah. No, we didn't. Yeah. 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 You're right. You might be the only one, Erwin.
Yeah. Set the precedent. Yeah. Because again, like many people didn't stay. I think almost nobody stayed.
Yeah.
So yeah, I probably gave the wrong expectation. Oh, it really worked out. Sure, let's let everybody else in. Like, oh my god, this is terrible. It's not a numbers game. Right?
No. Yeah. Yeah, we're kind of choosy we're not Rockstar is not a brokerage that is looking to attract a lot of agents. We're kind of consider ourselves a boutique place that's doing a pretty specific activity, and
we have
certain
a culture,
people,
we have a vibe.
Yeah, and certain people fit into it and certain people don't, but we're not trying to get like a million real estate agents. That's like the last thing we want. Yeah. Right? We're really trying to work with investors and build something, and we're not just trying to talk about real estate. We're trying to talk about all aspects of life, how to make it all work.
Yeah. And it's a complicated business, and there's lots of rules and stuff you have to follow.
Yeah,
I can't imagine having to herd all these cats.
And lots of personalities.
A lot of personalities. Yeah. Tom, I like to give my guests always the final word, like anything in general you want to say. Anything. Don't eat. Yeah, don't eat the yellow snow.
You know what? You saying that you mentioned something about dreaming big and stuff earlier. Somebody had a big impact on me once. I was an author, and then I forget the name of the book. And in the book, it basically said, if you want to have a big impact in your life, then you need to impact your community. And if you want to have a big impact on your community, you need to have an impact on your province. And if you want to have an impact on your province, you need to have an impact on the whole country. Basically saying that, like, if you really wanted to leave a lasting impact of what you're doing, you have to think bigger and beyond yourself, one level higher. And it's kind of always stuck with me, like, what can we do as a business or in life with my relationships where I can impact people beyond me directly? And it's just something we try to live by doing different little things. And it might sound cheesy, but to me, it's like, we're trying to impact people, and we're trying to do it at a level that's beyond us, and it's forcing us to think a little bit big. In our small little business, we are trying to think big, So it's something that stuck with me.
Yeah, I think you've had a lot of impact.
Yeah.
You probably have a couple $100 million among your clientele. That's like, how many people can say that?
Yeah. But thanks, Erwin. Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you for watching. If you want to learn how to invest in real estate from scratch, my team teaches beginners how to use the #1 investment strategy that I personally use in a virtual free training class every month. Go to investortraining.ca/YouTube to register for our next class. That link's also in the description as well. I publish at least 2 to 3 videos a week here, so subscribe if you want to keep learning from seasoned investors like myself and my guests. And if you're just starting out, feel free to ask questions and comment below, and I do the best to answer each of those comments and questions myself. Again, if you're ready to learn the nitty-gritty about real estate investing from a professional investor, register for our next virtual class. That's at investortraining.ca/YouTube. Thanks again for watching. See you in the next video.